Greetings, good day folks. I'm here in Tustin, California, in front of the Tustin Police Department. The statue you're looking at is that of a police officer who is kneeling in grief and mourning. He's got his baton, his radio, his police equipment. In the other hand, he's grasping an American flag. This statue was put here January 7th, 2001, after funds were raised for a fallen officer. The officer's name was Waldron Karp. They called him Wally. He was murdered in January of 1973 for doing his job. So on December 6, 1972, 53 years ago, Officer Wally, as he was called, was only one of two officers that night at 2:15 a.m. 2:15 a.m. He was only one of two Tustin police officers who were assigned to patrol duty. A woman had called the Tustin Police Department late that night at about 2:15 a.m. said that a man with a rifle was pounding on her door. As the dispatcher interviewed the caller, the dispatcher could hear gunshots in the background. Now that's alarming. I looked at the neighborhood that this occurred in. Yeah, it's a very, 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 very residential area. At the time, the address was just barely outside the city limits, so it didn't matter. Tustin police officers were sent there. They were backed up by the Orange County Sheriff's Department. Officer Wally, now he had a military background. He joined the Tustin Police Department in 1970. Previously, from 1958 to 1967, he was in the Navy in Vietnam. He was a medic. He treated many Vietnamese villagers, and they really loved him over there. He was such a nice guy and so helpful. So he wanted to join the police department. In 1970, he was hired as a reserve officer, and as of this date, December 6, 1972, he responded to this emergency call. Some guy with a rifle was pounding on a lady's door. Can you imagine her fright? Well, he and his backup officer arrived just as deputies from the Orange County Sheriff's Department were also arriving. The suspect hid. He hid himself in a bush. Officer Wally told the sheriff's deputies and everybody, you better hide, not hide, but I'm going in first, is what he said, because I sense a lot of danger. This guy looks very crafty. Well, he lost his life. The guy hid under a car. Officer Wally hid behind a street curb. Officer Wally shouted to the guy to surrender. He then motioned to the other officers where the guy was. He was hiding under a bush. And the guy quickly scooted underneath a vehicle and took aim at Officer Wally and shot him. He hit him in the shoulder and the torso, and he was gravely injured. Officer Wally managed to return fire and injured the suspect. Officer Wally then was taken to the hospital. The suspect injured was arrested by the sheriff's deputies. He survived. Officer Wally survived a month. He was in the hospital, and they really thought he was going to make it. They were holding out hopes. And then a month later, I think it was January 3rd, 1973, he did die while hospitalized. What angered me is that the suspect, Gary W. Johnson, he was convicted, and he served 7 years and was freed. 7 years for killing a cop? Are you kidding me? I was wondering, how did this happen? I haven't been able to find any further information on the guy. If any of you are good investigators, you may want to find out if he's still alive today. But remember that 1972, the Supreme Court of California had just ruled the death penalty as cruel and unusual punishment. So people like Charles Manson and other murderers who had been sentenced to death, nope, it was now life in prison. Somehow, I don't know how, this guy, Gary Johnson, according to this one article I read, was freed after 7 years. Whew. Yeah, my blood is boiling over this, even 53 years later, but it did happen. But Tustin has never forgotten Wally Karp. On January 7th, 2015, a ceremony was held, and except for the COVID restriction years, a ceremony's been held pretty much every year with a gun salute and somebody playing taps on the bugle. His freeway sign was put up on the 5 freeway in 2020. That's what drew me here, was the freeway sign. Wally's wife, she attended. His daughter and grandson have been attending these memorials too. Wally's not buried here. He's buried over in Watertown, New York, but we have this statue here to his memory. Let's take a walk and look at it more closely. This statue here was thousands of dollars. I think it was over $10,000 they raised to make it. You can see the flag underneath this grieving officer's arm. And there's Wally's commemoration. January 7th, he died, 1973. He had just been married 3 months, and some beast killed him just because he was doing his duty. On December 6, 1972, after responding to a man with a gun call, Waldron Karp was shot and fatally wounded by a gunman. Waldron Karp gave his life in the performance of his duty to protect the citizens of Tustin. May he never be forgotten. Salute to you, Officer Waldron Karp. It's because of officers like this who are brave and at grave risk to their own lives, they protect the public. Again, I've said this before on other videos. If there's any cop haters out there, think again, because I know who you call if you have an emergency, if you have a medical emergency, or you're being threatened. These are the guys you call. You don't call your local drug dealers, right? You don't call homies for you. No, because those guys don't care about you. These are the men and women who are willing to sacrifice their lives to protect you. So please, honor them and their memory. And my sympathies to the Karp family.